academic delay, so or dilemma. We were waiting for the dean, who actually sent a message. She's a bit late, so we will start in a moment. As you know, today we are launching the third edition of Miaw, the Milano International Architectural Week and Workshop. And a cluster of 11 guests are here to tutor our students, Polymy students, the School of Architecture and Society, and that are belonging to different educational tracks, and also belonging to the bachelor program and the master program. We are quite happy that for this edition we were able to transform what was an eligible course or an optional outside the grid. We actually were able to put inside a structure of the education so that all students would have choose the courses, those workshop within their curricula. And this has been a great results. Credits will be delivered at the end of the 2 weeks, and also we transform what was an external workshop in a sort of permanent experience, international experience at home. Describing the initiative to some of the colleagues who very kindly accepted to be here for 2 weeks. That is not easy, as you all know. I was telling that it's a kind of being Erasmus in your own city, because this allows you to have education with international tutors, going back to into your own flat every night, still working on the project, and going back and still meeting them at your school. So it's a very comfortable way of being Erasmus. It's also an opportunity, besides the discussion of the results to gain in the 2 weeks, is also an opportunity for all of you to train and to experience different methodologies, teaching methodologies, methods, how to approach a program, how to solve and to discuss a task, how to really think and exploit a project, which are the ways a work could be presented, technical drawings, movies, maquettes, mock-up, performances, how to approach and make an exploration, traveling around, shooting pictures, smelling, sleeping on site, redrawing, interviewing, serving the services and all informations. So that's a great experience to go outside what could be the Milanese tradition of teaching that you have been, in a way, comfortable along those years. I want now to really thank one by one our guests, and I will use the calendar, the structure we have. So I will also mention the workshop that belongs, and so I would also invite the guests, if they could stand up so the students could recognize, even though some of your pictures are around on the web. So Carlos Arroyo, Workshops 1, is that? Welcome. And the host, we also always have a host professor. That means a professor who has invited the guest and a tutor. The host is Marco Bovati and the PhD tutor Alicia Tognon. Where are they? Alicia? Great. Workshop 2, Carlos Asensio Vandosel. Where are you? Carlos, thank you for coming. Carlo was invited by me, and the tutor is the PhD tutor is Francesca Zanotto, who is around here. Refer to Workshop 3, Luis Basabe Montalvo. Thank you for coming. The host professor is Bertrando Bonfantini, and PhD tutor Lorena Grevka. Workshop 4, Roberto Bottazzi. The host professor is Antonella Contin, and PhD tutor Alessandro Frigerio. Where are they? We don't see, but they were here. Workshop 5, Angelo Bucci. I didn't mention that some of the guests are coming from within Europe, and some others are coming outside Europe, from very far away. So Angelo Bucci is coming from Brazil. And this is, I just say because many of the students have complained because their agenda was too tight to attend the workshop. And I would invite the guests to show their own agenda to be here those 2 weeks. And then you will discuss whether your own agenda was more dense and compact than their agenda. And this is a work. Workshop 6, Juan Luis de las Rivas, was hosted by Bertrando Bonfantini and PhD tutor Michele Vianello. Where is it? Workshop 7, Yuri Grigorian. Host Professor Alessandro De Magistris and tutor Martina Sogni. Is it? Actually, the tutors are important more than the host, because the tutors are the one who have, in a way, first of all, had to be in touch with our guest and also mediate with the students who they have a problem. They should recognize you as the person, the problem solver. Workshop 8, Angela Koch. And host Professor Carlotta Fontana and tutor Michele Gerli. Where is Michele? Workshop 9, Marcio Kogan. And host Emilio Faroldi and PhD tutor Caterina Franco. Workshop 10, Jean Mas. Host Professor Andrea Gritti and PhD tutor Claudia Zanda. Workshop 11, that is last but not least, Akim Menges, who is there. Host Professor Ingrid Paoletti and PhD tutor Roberto Naboni. As you know, we will have Professor Cinozucchi presenting us Milan. Grafting architecture is the title. Okay, campsite shear theory, just invented for us tonight. There was a hard time for Cino to be here. And followed by Barbara Coppetti, that I saw, that will briefly introduce to Reforming Milano. That is, in a way, the background of our work and the workshop. Is an initiative which sees the cooperation between our school and the municipality in order to intervene, transform, and have vision on the city. Transformation that is, in a way, dealing with neglected, abandoned places in Milano, but also area of huge transformations or extensions, so where the city is going. And we are very, in a way, interested to see how foreigner eyes can drive and run our students to envision possible future transformation of those settings, and how your inspiring thoughts will be presented at the end of the 2 weeks of workshop, where we will have a collection of personality who will attend the final presentation by the students, the Architect Association, and municipality and other institutions representing the city of Milano. So they were very keen to listen, attend the work. I see that our dean arrived, and I would leave the floor to her and then to Chino. And thank you to all of you to be here, all guests who were able to really cut out 2 weeks from their agenda. Thanks a lot.
Good morning. Welcome to everybody. Sorry for my delay, I was running. So, here we are. I'd like just to say something about Milan International Architectural Weeks. This is a project that the School of Architecture and Society improved during the years. It was Gennaro, Postiglione and a group of professors the first time that organized this one as a small workshop. Then we decided with the board of the school to organize this experience as a sort of in-house international program, in-house workshop. To give possibility to our students to have a work with international colleagues, professors and architects on some particular topics that we consider relevant. And this is also the connection with another project of our school, which is Reforming Milano. This is the second year that we are testing this project with the municipal administration of Milan. This project is devoted to design on some buildings and areas that are abandoned or in a situation of lack of use in a certain sense. Is related to a project of the municipality of Milan to note, to design a sort of catalog of these areas and to promote with the owners the possibility of a rehabilitation of these buildings and areas. So our students have the possibility to work on a topic which is really important for our city, and I think also a topic that is relevant for Western and European cities that are connected with this problem of abandoned areas. I would like that I don't want to take too much time, but I would like to thank a lot all our guests as visiting professor, Carlos Arroyo, Carlos Asensio Vandosel, Luis Basabe Montalvo, Roberto Bottazzi, Angelo Bucci, Juan Luis de las Rivas, Yuri Grigorian, Angela Koch, Marcio Kogan, Jean Mas and Akim Menges, who come in our school, and I hope that the work with our students will be a good work and that we will have the possibility to exchange ideas on our town. Thank you very much.
Good. Before going on, I would recommend all the students to take note of the weekly program. We will have evening lectures almost every day, at 6, not today because it's the first day of kickoff of the workshop. And this is the opportunity to listen by the lectures are delivered by the guests. So it's an opportunity also for each of us to listen and to discuss with tutors and mentors from other workshops that would not be in our group where you are working. So I kindly recommend all the tutors to stop working at 6 and attend the common lectures. So this is not a competition among the groups of different tutors, but it's an opportunity for us to share and work together. So it's a relevant part of the program, attending those events. I can imagine that the second week will be harder because the deadline will be closer and closer, and each of us would get panic to finish. But at the same time, I would also remind that together with Pierluigi Salvadeo and Alessandro Rocca, who are the real people behind the work, I'm just the inventor or the Kickstarter of the Miaw, we have been planning that the final delivery will be completely on your choice. What to be delivered can be technical drawings, huge posters, manifesto, performances. So there's no kind format limit, and we will supply you a description where you can be allowed or is allowed to exhibit or present or perform the work. Mainly is the school, the spaces inside this building. So it's a quite free, and this is also done in order to stress that for us the process is much more relevant than the result. That we are not going to build anything out of what you are doing, but they should build the awareness of design process in our students. I think if Chino left 1 minute, of course, the final check of the show. But I actually would like to thank Maria Feller, who I guess you all know through email. I don't know whether you met. She's here, and also students. They know that and tutors. She is the big engine behind the email and the website, and whatever happens on the web, it's coming out of her. And every email you received is starting from her computer. Chino is rushing inside. It's like a world championship. We really have to thank Chino very much, because he's again a person with a very tight agenda who was able to cut off few hours for us and presenting the new theory. I guess you go there about the campsite night shower. It must be a nightmare the last night for him, thinking, don't break the computer. As you all know, Shinozuki has a practice here in Milan. It's for sure is one of the most well-known international architects at Polimi, and has been curating grafting architecture in last Architectural Biennale in Venice, where the main curator was Rencolas. And his office has been successful in a number of competitions and a very long list of built projects inside Milano and outside the city and in Europe. Thank you for accepting. Welcome. Ciao.
Yeah. Pronto. Okay, so they asked me to briefly speak about my city, but this weekend was raining, so we invented a new theory. You know, Miss Van der Rohe said, you can invent a new architecture every Monday morning, but sometimes we can. So I try to deal with a problem I find I would say, a problem of approach in the relationship between design, rereading back Christopher Alexander notes on the synthesis of form, in his critiques to functionalist design, one could say. And I think when we do things, we, as a children, pose ourselves a problem. We try to use our mind to look at issues and find solutions, but also somehow we have the possibility to learn from somebody else who done the same thing before. So we learn by doing, as animals do in a way, and then we also have one thing more, which is learning how to build a bomb from internet, something that was knowledge which is a collective storage or going on Wikipedia. And I think functionalism somehow made a diagram. I mean, I'm simplifying very much. The idea that you can have a process where you look at data, you look at a problem, you somehow have some kind of algorithm of method to elaborate this data, and you have a response. So this could be the diagram in its most simple form of an input-output process. A typical input-output process is that the more we push on the pedal, the faster we go. And if we see the police, we take away the pedal, we brake and we go slow. But then sometimes the response is not instantaneous. We have a delay. So the response to our input is delayed in time. If today we decide we're old enough to reproduce our species, or not to reproduce our species because the world does not deserve our genes, the effect of what we do, that's taken from the book I found when my grandfather was dead. I found this erotic book, 100 Positions of Love. It was a very holy way of making love, protecting yourself in an integral way. But then I said, the diagram of the population is shifted. This is the diagram of the population in Japan after the war. So the effect of an act we do today, it will appear later in time. This is true for politicians, for example. When a politician starts a new subway system, the next politician will open it up. In this case, it's Vittorio Sgarbi opening up in the project we did in Portello, the inaugurating. So each politician inaugurates the effect of his previous politician. Oh, sorry, there's a name missing. But if we think of architecture as sort of an input-output process, what is the input of architecture? In a classical way, one could say culture would join the technical aspects and the well-learned one. Europe has a tradition of being sort of, architecture is not an empirical matter, just a response, but it has some kind of higher aims. And in the classical times, these were joined. In the treatises, you would find reference to Romanity joined with how you make a mortar. In this case, it's a drawing by Palladio. When he did measure drawings, he went to Rome, and the Rotonda, of course. But then in more recent time, one could somehow the world split up in two. You have this idea that architecture is closer to the other arts. This, in case, is Carlo Mollino, who was also famous for doing these erotic pictures. And inspiration is the input of the architect. Or on the other side, you could think of an architect as, in this case, Jean Prouvé, was almost an engineer in a white apron, doing teamwork, starting in this case from the lack of housing after the war, to prefabricated housing and so on. Once I met Bernard Sciumi in Milano. He was around with some students. we met on the street, and he said, Cino Zucchi, today the world is splitting in two. You have the, he said, the signature architects who do, and he went like this, and the production architects who put elevators and stair blocks inside what the signature architects do. But then in a way, for some reason, modernists thinking about town planning felt the old model was useless. So they tried to make some kind of transpose to the scale of the city these input-output projects, and the organicity of the result would sort of become a natural output of this way of thinking, you know, this Victor Gruen ideal city. But this actually was taken from a book my father brought me back. I think it was 64, 65, from New York. It was a New York's fair. And I was totally convinced when I grew old, I would live like the Jetsons with my little helicopter in this city. But this can be seen also as a metaphor of the way functionalists thought about the city. You know, to start from the functions, the function of dwelling, the function of circulating, the function of having fun, of working, respond singularly to these functions and then put it all back together. Actually, you have some cases where architects felt good enough or that enough to reinvent the city. You know, Brodacre City by Frank Lloyd Wright, or Chandigarh in a very peculiar political condition was born. I mean, Chandigarh. And recently we studied, I mean, at least our generation, on these drawings, seeing this beautiful, almost poème de langue droit and proportional, almost golden ratio applied to the scale of the city. A couple of years ago, they invited me in Chandigarh to give a lecture, and I went to visit, you know, the Le Corbusier capital. Was barbed wire all over. This is barbed wire dividing the big space in between the capital and the secretary. So actually this big space does not function at all when it gets really, really damp and very hot in Chandigarh, because in the summer, Punjab has a very, very hot and damp climate. And it's very interesting because you see these even fantastic pieces of Le Corbusier. This is just a side housing next to the capital, lived in for many, many years, the Brise Soleil full of you know, air conditioning, the modular, as the backdrop was just a bureaucratic office and so on. But really it does not work the way Le Corbusier planned it. Even the word Capitolium, you know, it was supposed to be a big forum, and now you can enter the single pieces. And after 50 years of lived-in city, like like a shoe that you need to think, it's very interesting also to see what, you know, people done with it. And to me, it's actually a city works very well. It's very desirable. It's very strange because the streets are think as circulation, not as places to live in. So the traffic is very good, and it's an interesting, and all this called still the sectors. You have Sector 19, Sector 15. It sounds a little bit like Blade Runner-ish in name. Just to say that those examples I showed, it was somebody with very good intentions starting to look at problems, but without really have the possibility of interacting. I mean, simplifying a little bit. Today, we can treasure this kind of experience, which are not so often because you don't get to build a city anew. Maybe in Far East you can, and we can think of a more complex process, the one which implied the feedback. So the output somehow re-regulates and retunes the input. A typical feedback process is the one of a plane with the tail, the tails of the plane. In a way, if the plane inclines, the pressure of the air would sort of increase the force on the tail, and so gets the plane right. So the stabilizer, some process of feedback, they tend to equilibrium to stabilize the process. But some process of feedback tend to amplify. This is a typical when the microphone whistles, because the output, the amplified voice gets into the microphone again, gets re-amplified until you get shrieking. So not all the feedback processes are converging to an equilibrium. But also in the feedback process, you can have the issue of time. So the feedback could be regulate the input in a delayed way. And that's what I called the campsite shower theory. When you go in a campsite and you take a shower, you switch on you turn on the faucet, and the water is really cold. So you try to get it hot, and for a while nothing happens, so it's still cold. So you go on the hot side, and then you go more and more and more until somehow it gets too hot, and then you turn it back, and for a while it gets too hot until you get it right. And this, actually, mathematicians study this phenomenon, and with this, one could call it oversteering. You have to wait, patience. They say, in mathematical terms, you need patience to wait for the effect of your feedback to act. And in the end, it tends to stabilize to the right temperature if you have, if you're patient enough. Of course, you have the mathematics of it. I will not go into Nyquist diagram. People who studied reactive mathematical systems we use every day, they studied in the mathematics of it. But of course, even this delay can have different times. Example of self-adaptive, very quick feedback systems. When somebody announces the rain comes out, all of a sudden from nowhere, vous comprez pop up from nowhere, and with an umbrella you see every time here. So you have a very, very fast self-regulating system of selling umbrellas when you have this, or when you announce a new soccer game, all of a sudden this pop up with big scarves and so on. So this is a typical example of self-regulating systems in a city who affect the way we live. Another interesting one is one who also implies workloads of architects or interior decorators. The electronic cigarette was invented, and then all these pop-up stores came up, and then it was prohibited. And then Veronese, he's the most famous cancer theorist, he said it's not so bad. So this affects the city in the sense that if you go around, you see many graphics working on it, many stores. So this feedback, even the city always tries to readapt itself to the new inventions or functions. And this feedback system generated a bigger attention to the user. In this case, you could say, is it a user or consumer? But the famous died in Tinto in Capo, died in peace by Benetton. Basically, instead of dyeing the wools before knitting them, Benetton made white sweaters, and then he waited for the people to respond. If they wanted very much pink sweaters, then they dyed them when they were already made up, so they could have a very fast response to the market. One could say that if the first, modern theory looked for the typical man, the 40, we had a belief that we could state general needs for everybody, the needs of the air, the needs of the sun, the air, playing like this. It was an idealized, almost modular man. In this case, there's a society, even as consumer societies, who goes more and more into the idea of characters, that we are not equal. So the theory of physiognomics or pathognomics of the 1800s today are used to divide in a different sets of consumers. In this case, the diagram of innovators, thinkers, achievers, experiences, and so on. So we feel a little bit like we're rats in a cage. But for example, the other day I started chatting with a Jewish girl that I did not know on internet, and after 2 days on internet I start getting advice will say, find your own ancestors, are you an Ashkenazi, and so on, which means every time we do something, we really, we are watched. You know. This interactive, you know, all this, some people are starting to say, are we sure that the smart city is not a big system of control? Everybody talks about, oh, the smart city, the smart city. Maybe the smart city is the most Orwellian cities around, you know. It depends who has the control. And in this case, you have some kind of, there's Dan Sperber talking about the epidemiology of representations, the fact that you have these words like, you know, somehow things, even ideas, even our approaches, the way we deal with the city, they tend to spread around and have moments of success and they go down. Let's talk about words like sustainability, now resilience. I mean, it's a very interesting word applied to the city, to be sincere, but you know, after a while words, they sort of lose their meaning. And this system could work all right. One could say maybe the lifespan of our buildings is not as long as the old ones, but then somehow we feel something is not totally right. This is a photographer who takes pictures in these dead shopping malls, you know, and so this shopping mall could be seen as the perfect product of this attitude. It's the perfect machine to sell, even for people to meet, but then when its finance has gone, it falls down. So, in a way, in the American model, if, let's say, the heart was the shopping center, the aorta was the expressway, the cells were the houses, and the red blood cells were the cars. This split in two system where all you need to live, in a way, is to have a house, a swimming pool, a basket on the door, and to be connected. But, you know, can we destroy and build a city anew every 30 years? Somehow no. When we go, without being too romantic about it, one could say we have a feeling that the ancient city behaves better. This is Diocletian Palace in Split that hosts very well cafes and so on. So how come, you know, in a way we have the most advanced technologies, but not always we are building the best cities? This is a photograph. Matilde Casani was in the last Biennale in the Monditalia section. She went to see, in this case, in the Po River Valley, you have a very, very, very big community of Sikhs, because the Sikhs are very good in keeping the cattle. So they migrated here to keep the cattle, to substitute Italian farmers or cattle owners. And in Novellara, which is a small, typical Italian small town, there's the biggest Sikh festival of Europe. So the space of almost a quite traditional Italian city hosts very well the Sikh feast, annual feast. And we try to deal with that in the last Biennale. We did an open call for people to send us videos about what's called life adapts to the spaces that adapts to life. It was a little bit of a circular thing. What is the actual relationship between spaces and life? This I'm talking about design. You know, when we talk about response to needs, this problem of delay, how could it go? Can we find both the desire of intimacy, of privacy, and the urbanity to live in the inner city? How do we deal with the issue of density? You know, in Europe, we are talking again about density as a positive thing. This is a diagram of energy consumption in very sparse cities or dense cities. Actually, it's been demonstrated that the greenest household in the suburbs is much more energy consuming than the worst urban apartment for many reasons. Let's say an inhabitant of suburbs consumes at least 3 times gasoline and 2 times electricity of one in a city. So today we dream about putting together city and nature, almost that we are afraid to call a building a building. We have all these very I think psychoanalytical, the idea that the building should become itself nature, we are not totally convinced with. But again, I think in these schemes, they can be very fascinating. You have the same determinism of the Victor Gruen model. And there's an article by Christopher Alexander in 1964, which is called A City is Not a Tree. He was saying that kind of planning you saw, if you take the tree as a topological diagram, somehow it says neighborhood units joining into, not a single houses joining in neighborhood units, doing satellite towns and so on. He says the tree system is too schematic in a way where each node is connected to each other one just by a node. He said the historical city, more than a tree, works as a semi-lattice, where each point is connected to the other points by more than one relationship. So I think, can we learn, without, again, nostalgia, to put together city and nature, this is Place des Vosges in Paris, without all these oppositions? I mean, can we find the best of the social exchange, the continuity, the vivacity of the city, and the environmental values we are striving for? In 1975, I read this book, The Limits of Growth. Actually, it was written by 1972. It was the first mathematical model of the Club of Rome by MIT to see that the things could not go on that way. The things would collapse. Actually, this is, I found my notebook, 1977, Shinozuki Artificial Intelligence, where I was studying Lisp. So actually, I went to MIT because I was so scared of this gloomy future he was expecting us. And this is the model with which they made the interaction, this flowing feedback system of the model used by MIT. So I don't know, I can read the fine lines, but how the phenomenon we're talking about influence other, how the food production, starving, population, economy would interact. What is interesting that since that was 72, they made, after 30 years, they tried to upgrade and see how the projection of that study would relate to the real numbers. For example, computers were not, at that time, were not the same thing, or nobody would predict. So what's the relationship between prediction of utopias and the way it's go? And actually, some of the things did not go exactly the same way, but then they were not so different. So the collapse delayed a little bit, but it's not so different. The black lines are the way it really went, and the dotted lines are the way they were predicted. So this, I mean, I'm semi-ironic, but this idea that in any way we cannot respond with architecture in a just-in-time. I mean, it takes some time to build, and if you do something today, you respond to a program today, the things will get built in some years. This is typical also when the crisis went down. City life in Milano is being built on a program finance which are totally offset of what we are now. But if we do something now, maybe when it gets on the market or built, things will change. So can we somehow get some attitudes out of it? One could say maybe we should be more just in time. Maybe can we have better modeling instruments with the computer? Should we re-embed flexibility? I mean, should we allow some hiatus or degree of freedom between hardware and software, in a sense, the city and its inhabitants? Are we sure that every time a new child is born, we have to build a red box on top on your dwelling? I mean, is that a little bit stupid or trivial, or maybe it's not exactly the way the city works? Then can we do something which have some kind of adaptability to different situations? Should we retrofit things? We have a lot of buildings today that either we just destroy, or, for example, the idea of reconverting office buildings into housing is a very European theme. Milano is full of buildings from the 80s who are totally non-ecological built, but either we throw them down or we adapt them. Should we look at, I'll not say that the knowledge of the ancients, maybe the things we learn are not all that bad. And I think public space in the old city is what keeps together. I mean, probably the thousands little changes of individual tastes should not completely alter the pattern of the city. I mean, the city should survive its inhabitants, I think. So durability could be an issue. And I finish up with two phrases one is by Wittgenstein. They said, the young people of today find themselves in a situation in which a good intelligence does not suffice anymore to deal with the strange requests of life. In fact, it is not sufficient anymore to be good players. Another question arises continuously. Is this the game to play right now, and which is the right game? We have fragments of knowledge, you know, about the sun. We have a lot of modeling systems, but we know what instruments to apply. I mean, it's useless to shoot to a fly with a bazooka. I mean, so we have instruments, but what are the right instruments? What is the right game to play? I think what we learn, it does not completely tell you when to use the things. So I think we need a lot of reflection of relationship between instruments and, I would say, even ideologies, of attitudes, let's say, more than ideologies. The second one I took from Adolf Bene in 1923. He wrote Der moderne Zweckbau, which calls translated like the modern functionalist. And he says, while the function looks for the maximum possible adjustment to a goal as specific as possible, the rationalist is looking for the greatest chance of compliance with the largest number of necessities. Nothing more understandable for the rationalist is to put an emphasis on form. Form is born with the establishment of human relationships. The lonely man isolated in the midst of nature has no form or problem. The question of form arises together with the union of more individuals, and form is the condition which make possible men to live together. I just come from a jury of the Miss Van der Rohe Prize, and this morning I was revising the text which Tony Chapman from London will present to the press conference. And the question of agreeing or disagreeing for a jury is very interesting. Do we have shared values we can all force the consensus in, or is just raising hand and whimsical applying of a judgment or a power game? That's very difficult. To find yourself in judge a competition, which can affect the city very much, it's a very responsible thing. Do we still own some kind of shared aesthetics even? I think the only really written aesthetics is classicism. In a way, Paul Valéry said, academicism is a way of, let's say, sharing, to have some common agreement about aesthetic values. When we chose individualism or romanticism, which is good, freedom, in a way, freedom is also relativism or hermeticism. So I don't think we can go back to academics and classicism, but still can be the city just a battlefield of different ideologies? That's a question I pose to you. And I think, just to finish up to say, I think we still love the city. We like cities, we're very romantic, we travel to see cities. We don't just go to cities as, let's say, places to do things. We really are sentimental about cities. So before letting, maybe there's something better than the city. In the Archigram in the Osaka fair, they made a statement, it's called the Osaka-gram, and they said, do we still need the city, or we can just have some kind of moving containers, you know, something like the big bubble of Rene Banham, you know, unhoused. I think I'm kind of romantic, maybe of an old generation. We can get a lot from the cities again, in all senses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cino, for inspiring kick-off note, and we will challenge the relation between aesthetics and forms, and whether the city can play really something meaningful for us. I would just add that well, the big challenge I think is between aesthetics and ethics in the way we work, and how what we do can interfere with a behavior. That's cleverness can be very arrogant and very devil-like. So it's a tricky job. I would like to invite Barbara Coppetti, who is part of the staff at Polimi, teaching here, and who is also in charge to negotiate the relation between the school and the municipality for the program called Reforming Milano that you are part of. She will briefly introduce what it's about and to give a chance to all of you to be introduced in the topic and the goal of the program.
Okay, good morning. Reforming Milan is a didactic and research initiative promoted by our school and the Department of Urban Planning of the Municipality of Milan in the year 2013. Many design studios and courses have worked during a full academic year on projects dealing with the possibility of recovering neglected and decayed space and buildings, both public and private, with permanent or temporary functions. The initiative Reforming Milan, following a didactical, scientific and operative approach, reflects the interest of the school in proposing itself as a place for design elaborations and experimentations, especially focusing on the area of Milan through an open discussion with public actors and citizens. For the second edition of Reforming Milan in the current academic year, the selection of urban spaces was made into the west side of the city. The choice was based on the map made by the Department of Urban Planning of the municipality, with all the neglected and decayed space and buildings of the city. The choice of the west side captures the scenario of the implementation of the Universal Exposition to be held in the second half of 2015 from May to October in Milan. Expo becomes an opportunity to read the transformation affecting the whole field of the West Milan as a result of the economic and functional activities that will combine the event. The topic of Expo, Fending the Planet, Energy for Life, remain concealed in guiding the content of the project and could be assumed as a guideline event for the post-Expo. The background of the initiative is the abandonment place. The abandoned place are the soils and the building discarded and underused. In 2 years of work, many areas have been registered. They are schools, swimming pool, socio-medical institution, hospitals, municipal markets, cinema, factories, warehouses, stores, houses, farms, whole office buildings, military barracks, in addition to numerous free areas of different size and consistency. Those are space and buildings led by men and then left to their slow decomposition. Sometimes they are even placed in nodal context, in a recognizable place with their own identity, or more often, they are confined to bleak, weak, and insignificant landscapes. The current research aims to the urgent care of the soil and of the many buildings discarded and neglected. As a considerable heritage, they inspire a reflection that simulates regeneration process of the physical spaces. At the same time, they help us to think about new roles to facilitate reorganization, reuse, and renewal processes. The abandoned space are situated in a suspended time. Their potentialities are investigated through interdisciplinary design explorations at the different scales inside this common thematic and problematical background. The place of abandonment became heritage and resource for reactivating regeneration processes. The thesis arguments. The topic of the abandonment, it isn't new for our field studies. The debate around abandonment has its disciplinary roots from the recovery space by Cagnardi, the abandoned territories by Stefano Boeri and Bernardo Secchi, to the urban rediscovered place of Sergio Crotti, or neglected areas, a first assessment of Vittorio Gregotti. The phenomenon and the debate about the neglected areas between 1918 and 1919 involved the whole Europe, although with great diversities of cases. The abandoned space defined today a different problem from the other one of the previous steps of this work. The research developed by Philip Oswald about the shrinking city highlighted the transition from growth, urbanization, and expansion processes that characterized the modern age to shrinkage phenomena. Today's tangible decrease is related to those studies that redefine a world map of the shrinking cities, trying to measure the most recent transformation that correspond to variation of principle, action, practice, and design strategies. The demographical, economical, and building decreasing, in addition to the significant contraction of the investment on social services offered by the public sector to citizenship, reflects a census of abandoned areas in the municipality of Milan that shows the changing of three important aspects. The first is the geography of the areas. We can see in the map a nuclear disposition. The areas are diffused in the urban fabrics, a set of spaces and buildings of different scales scattered in the urban landscape. The second one is the changing of the relationships between the abandoned site and the historical memory. More and more frequently, they are materials of a recent history. For example, the anonymous building in which we cannot recognize a documental or memorial value. Then we assume them as discarded material, wastes, and rubbles. We could remember David Lynch thinkings and the essays grouped in the Marc Auger book titled Ruins and Rubble, The Sense of Time. The third is the changing of the physical state of the involved artifacts. The prolonged state of abandonment generates situation of degradation, of social danger, of illicit settlements that cause problems of hygiene and public safety. If the disuse doesn't necessarily correspond to degradation, time acts on the buildings or on the areas, having a negative influence on the surrounding urban areas, amplifying the punctual decay to a broader physical and social context. The work's outlooks. Reforming Milan want to raise real problems that belong to the current debate, to the attention of students, teachers, and tutors working in the different courses, design studio, and workshop. Ilaria Valente and Ada Lucia De Cesari are the responsible of the initiative that is coordinated by Corinna Morandi and myself with the collaboration of Elena Fontanella, and in the edition of the previous academic year with the collaboration of Andrea Oldani, Giulia Setti, and Martina Sogni. On this common background, a group of professors, young researchers, and their students has undertaken to deal with the questions expressed by the society and the municipality. The results that the didactical project want to reach are proposal for the urban space of the sociality, of the hospitality, for the contemporary dwelling within the scenario's different uses, like temporary housing, social housing, spaces for the shared life, for the welcome, but also spaces for cultural activities and open spaces for the urban agriculture, gardens, and vegetable gardens. Those are just some of the functions that the design proposal were giving shape to, confronting with the urban policies necessary for their implementation. We have developed a list of abandoned areas divided into dimensional typologies. Areas of urban reorganization, areas of urban transformation, areas of landscape redevelopment, built-up and open parcels, farmhouse to be redeveloped. Between those, a lot of areas, we found the 8 areas selected for the Miaw workshop, and we are going to speak in the last 10 minutes about those 8 areas. The first one is Via Brunetti environment, area of urban reorganization. It is an area enclosed within an irregular block composed of constructed fragments of small autonomous buildings, more or less recent, that were constructed as the sum of parts. They don't define any mutual relation. The large central void that is nowadays divided into a car storage, a car breaker, and interstitial residual areas seeks new internal and external connection. We can see the previous, the slide with the municipality provision. Okay. The second area is a former parade ground, ex Piazza d'Armi. It is a large urban void, and its history was connected to military use. Now it is surrounded and encircled by the city and by its fabric of the decades of expansion. Today it is a precious voice whose fate is uncertain. We can see the municipality provisions with the connection of different sides, connection with open space, the west and the east, the north and the south of the area. The third one is San Cristoforo Rail Yard, area of urban transformation. It belongs to the area of landscape redevelopment that is sit alongside Naviglio Grande. The rail yard has a narrow and lengthened shape towards southwest. It is bordered on the north side by the active railway line Milano-Mortara, and on the south side by the line of water Naviglio Grande. Inside this wide area, we can recognize the skeleton of the unfinished train station designed by Aldo Rossi and Gianni Braghieri. A recent project titled Domestication of an Eco Monster by Studio Albori has proposed the reuse of the unfinished structure. And the Studio Albori kindly helped us into the research of the materials of the area. The fourth is former Montello Barracks, Caserma Montello. It is an off-limits military area. It is expected to be placed back into the life of fabric of the city, introducing public function, social housing, and experimental dwellings. We can see the slide with the municipality provision and the maintenance of the buildings of military area. The fifth area is ex-Cinema Adriano, built up and open parcels. Through this work, we are looking also for the memory of punctual smaller cases, for the history of small architecture, small portion that express a sense of belonging to the historical moment that made them. Here the architecture is present in the minor works, and the project can recognize their characters and reshape future conditions, revealing their identities. Former Borletti, built up and open parcels. It is the last part of the Borletti factory of Via Washington, waiting for a transformation. Borletti production was belonging to the field of precision engineering. The Liberty Building facing Piazza Ernerio is today abandoned, but we can still consider as a fragment of the memory of the industrial Milan of the 20th century. Agip gas station is a building that has a remarkable architectural interest. It is placed at the corner between Viale Certosa and Viale Spinasse. Its project was developed by architect Mario Bacciocchi in 1951. It was one of the first architectural design for the gas station model, later standardized, of the Eni oil company. The building has an highly plastic image, and it appears as an unusual within the anonymous urban context. The last one is the Montel horse stables in San Siro. The stables were built starting from 1950 and were finished in 3 years. The San Siro football stadium was built later, and the site was, at that time, a wide expanse of lawns where horses were running and trained. It appears today as a place full of contradiction and contrasts, since after the Second World War, the horse racing has been replaced by football, and the horse stables have been abandoned and looted. Thank you very much.
Before going on to the real work, I would like to invite all the guests on this side of the room, they could briefly introduce them to the students. Just a 3 minutes presentation. And then we can spread in our rooms, and we meet up at 1:30, just behind here, through the Spazio Mostra for having a lunch together. So I would like to invite all of you. There are enough? Yeah, you can take it. I guess there are enough chairs. The youngest can stand. I think, yeah. Puoi accendere. Either you. So we. Should be enough. You can activate the microphone just touching the red button. Can you manage? Yeah, the red on the right is orange. So there are not enough chairs. Apologize. We never had so many speakers at once. But I think it would have been very nice to listen to all of you together, because this is probably the first and the last. The last actually will be the final presentation on the Friday the 6th. So it's a good chance to listen a few words from you, who you are, where are you coming from, main interest, or the way you would like to introduce yourself. I just would like to add and apologize when introducing Professor Bucci. I didn't say that the host was Alessandro Rocca, that you could be almost without parents. So thank you. I guess maybe we could start from the less comfortable guests.
Well, thank you. I would say first the pleasure I have to be here, and I want really to thank Polimi to invite all of us for this workshop. I think it's a great experience, and I hope it will be a great experience for you too. My name is Jean-Mas, so I'm come from Paris, and I work on Caserna Montebello with the students of my group, which is a very large military site. And I want to be really brief. I don't want to make a long time to present the work we are going to do together, but I heard Dino Tsuki 5 minutes ago speaking very well about a strong belief that architects can share all together, whatever their pedagogical experience is belief on the city. He said very well, in my opinion, that when we travel, we go to cities, and of course we like to experience the streets, the plazas, the hill, the upper point of view, whatever. And the pictures he showed about the public space was really something explaining what kind of joy, what kind of positive thinking we can get from cities. And the way we are going to share this idea of a public space that can be built in the project in this very large site again of Caserna Montebello will be the work we are going to do together.
So thank you very much for being here. And I would also like to begin, sorry, a little bit redundant, but with a thank you, because I am really excited about being here. I would like to thank Bertrando Bonfantini, who is my host, and the Politecnico in general, and all of you. No? I saw also many known names in the list of students from my last semester, where I had also the luck of being teaching here. No? So thank you very much for this opportunity for us all to be here. No? So I'm Luis Basabe, because you don't know me, most of you, and I come from Madrid, where I teach and run also a practice where we do almost everything, like most architects do now, and even in Spain, even more, you do what you can. But we have been working in the last years growingly on, let's say, urban design, or on the scale of urban tissues, no? Mainly in Central Europe, a little bit in Northern Europe, and also a little bit in Spain. No? And so that is more or less the scale in which we are going to be working, the Via Brunetti area, which is extremely interesting area, as our hosts just presented. No? It is a kind of place in the city which just happened. No? So it's a place where things happened growingly. You have some small industries, some housing. I just read in researching a little bit about the site that there was a squatter there. It was removed almost 1 year ago. So I think it is a perfect place to work about what I called the multiplayer city. So I would like, we don't have the time to give the definitive solution for a site, and it is also not the place. I would like to use more than to look for a solution, to use this workshop in order to have a reflection, a deep reflection, or as deep as possible, about the production of the city itself. So I would like us not to think about the result, but always, so not about the product, what should we design there, but always about how will this be produced. We will be working with different roles. We will be thinking about the production of the city from the point of view of the investor. We were talking in the morning, Jan and I, about the city, the contemporary cities made by the capital, by investors, but we will also think about the role of public institutions, about the role of the individual who produces the city. So I'm very excited, and I don't know what will come out, and I'm really interested, and I thank you all for your attendance.
Okay, I'm Marcio from São Paulo, Brazil, and thanks all the people here in the Politecnico. It will be a great pleasure to teach here for 2 weeks, and thanks to Filippo and Gabriel, Pietro, and Manuela that will help me in this workshop. That will be about 3 houses for 3 characters or personages from 3 films. From The Silence by Ingmar Bergman. One is from The Playtime from Tati, and the other one, The Clowns by Fellini. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Angela Koch. I'm coming from London, and in England we have changed the way how we work with citizens and stakeholders when we plan and design places about 3-4 years ago. So the emphasis of working with citizens and working with landowners and all stakeholders has really changed the practice, how we work. And in the next 2 weeks, we will be working in the east of the city. So you haven't actually seen Via Padua on the map we been talked through, but it is happening. So if you're out there, students, it is happening. And we will start with trying to understand how the public realm, how the public space, how it works for whom, who are the users, and who might have an interest. And maybe from there, maybe develop tools how we can assist and support all the different stakeholders in working maybe better together on the future of the public space of the area. I hope we have a chance right after the session to kind of get to know each other a little bit better, because I'm new to Milan. It's only the 3rd time I'm here, and I've only been twice at Via Padova, and I'm sure you all know it much better than I do. So I depend on you as well, and Michele, to discover this step, and we call the first week Discovery Week. And I'd like you to have that mindset of discovery, even if you know the area already. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Carola from the University of Stuttgart, and I teach this workshop together with Achim Menges, who will join us later this week. First of all, obviously, I thank Politecnico of Milano and Ingrid Poletti and Roberto Naboni for setting all of this up. Now, our workshop is called Granular Space. That might be a little bit of a culture shock to most of you, but those of you who know the work of the ICD University of Stuttgart, you know we work with large-scale material prototypes. So we will end this workshop with a large prototype, which consists of granulates. Now, granulates, I will give you an introduction lecture in the afternoon, are large masses of loose elements like sand that interlock and that are not really bound by a binding agent. Our granulates basically look like stars, which can be loosely poured and self-solidify. So you will work very hands-on. It will be maybe even a little bit physically exhausting, but very enjoyable. We really look forward to working with you, gathering novel ideas with the granulates, and we actually start with a new geometry. So far we've investigated vaults and arches, which are basically erosion forms, and you will actually start working on cylinders or towers, which is a form that only the so-called design granulates can achieve. So yes, we're really looking forward to exploring with you very hands-on those ideas.
Hello, I'm Carlos. I come from Madrid. Thank you very much. I will just say it once. Thank you. I was joking earlier on about the time, about what I do. I mean, I dedicate half my time to my professional practice, half my time to teaching, and half my time to research. So if you do the math, it doesn't leave much time for anything else. And I want the workshop to be along those 3 lines as well. So combining a very pragmatic approach to how you really do things, together with trying to understand what the reasons behind everything are, and then trying to learn, all of us together, about all the other 2 aspects. We will be working in a former factory, the Borletti, a former precision measuring devices factory. And the idea is that people in the group will have different approaches to architecture and society. That's the name of the faculty of the school here, and we're trying to see who is going to look at it from which point of view. So I'm imagining there will be somebody dealing with the history of the place and with the form of the city. There will be somebody else not really caring very much about that place, but thinking from really outside the box and trying to see how to change perception. There will be somebody trying to communicate what we're doing, so more to do with engaging with other stakeholders or other people interested in the place. But the purpose of this multifaceted look at the place is to understand how production in an urban context can be beautiful. So the beauty of productive landscapes in a city, and with the agenda that is set by our times to do with sustainability, to do with control of emissions, and to do with a proximity to consumption points of things that are produced. That's barely it. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank to Alessandro Roca for the invitation, Maria Feller and Giulia for all the arrangements. My name is Angelo Bucci. I will be working with David Rapp and Andrea Milianesi. So the area that we have to develop our project is the Stable de Montel. Very important, it's very close to San Siro Stadium. Now, as you know, it's an area with a tradition in horse training, horse race. The hippodrome is very close by. The idea is to, the most interesting thing to me is to be here to understand a little bit and to learn from you a little bit about Milano. And the process that we are going to be working will be very important for us tomorrow, the visiting that we are going to do to our place. So I think that is the perfect way to start. I hope we can have permission to get inside the building. That would be very important for us. And we are planning to dedicate like our first 3 days to open as much as possible our field of possibilities, and then to choose what could be a way to start our own proposals for that place, you know? And to develop a project in 2 weeks is always tough. We have to plan each day, each step. But I'm very excited to start this working with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Angelo. My name is Carlos Asensio Vanusel. I'm from Madrid. I would like to thank to Gennaro Postiglione, invite me to come here to this Miaw. And I would like to thank you to Francesca and Alice. They are helping me in this work. Our area or our place, our site is the old Cinema Adriano. It's an amazing place for me. We would like to work with several ideas. The first one is the concept of paradise, in relationship with the film, the Italian film Cinema Paradiso. No? The paradise, the idea of paradise, the old idea of paradise, and directly with the old Persian poem. The name is The Enclosed Garden of the Truth. This idea, the poem and the film, and two more ideas. I don't know the name in English, deriva, the surrealistic deriva. The people of the artists of the surrealism did some work in the city. The name is deriva. You put a point of start and finish, and another point for finish. And you work in the city. It's very different to flaner. Flanear is another concept, but it's different. Deriva is you have to plan the approach to the point, the final point. And another idea is the pass of the time. I would like to work with Sugimoto pictures. I don't know if everybody, Japanese photographer, Sugimoto. And the idea he has a picture of the cinemas. He put his camera at the first of the film, and off the camera at the end, no? and you can see the white screen, no? Because the whole film is inside. Bueno, these ideas. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning. I am Juan Luis de las Rivas from Spain, a medium town, Valladolid, close to Madrid. I teach, I am architect, but I teach town planning and urban design. But I am not only a professor, I am also a practitioner. But to me, it's a pleasure to stay here. Thank you very much to the staff for the invitation. I appreciate very much this kind of intensive weeks. It's no easy to work in complex issues in very, very few days. But it's very, very interesting for the background, to growth as architects. We will try to understand little by little the city, working, understanding in a creative way, working in the West. This program is to work, all the school working in Ripensari, a city as Milan is it's not usual, it's very interesting. We work in the military abandoned areas in the Western. And now I only want to say we need to work a lot, we need to learn one of the others, and thank you very much for staying here.
Hello, my name is Yuri Grigorian. I'm an architect from Moscow. First, I'd like to say thank you very much to Alessandro Di Magistris, Alessandro Rocca, Maria, and our team. I'm here with my wife and the partner Natalia. She's here in the room. And also Enrique and Martina will be teaching with us. I'm an architect. We started a quite interesting educational project in Moscow, Strelka Institute, 5 years ago together with OMA. I was educational director of that until the previous year. Now I'm running more architectural and research practice in Moscow, Project Meganom. And we will be happy to work on this Milano project, and it's the unique chance to see the ruin by Aldo Rossi, and we are very inspired. Thank you very much.
Just, yeah. Double microphone. Hi everybody. I'm Roberto Bottazzi. I come from London, from the Royal College of Art. I am an architect and a researcher. Like everybody else, I would like, of course, to thank Gennaro and Antonella for inviting me here. I'm very happy to be here. As said, we made some efforts to carve out 2 weeks out of our schedules, but I'm definitely very interested to find out what kind of things you guys work on and you're interested in, as well as to find out what my peers are also working on. My specialty is the use of computational tools in urban design, the use of basically data as an additional layer to the design instruments that architects work with traditionally. So that is something that, of course, we will look into throughout the next 2 weeks. We'll be working on the petrol station, the Agip petrol station and its surrounding areas. So we'll start, I suppose, slightly bit larger than the actual architectural object, and we'll eventually focus in. So I look forward to it, and thank you again.
Thank you to our guest. We already got the idea of a wide range of approaches and personalities and backgrounds. I would actually invite all of you to reach your rooms, and we meet up 1:30 for lunch. I would like to invite tutors and to go with a guest and show out the way to the room, because I mean Politecnico is quite a labyrinth that you can easily get lost. Collective meeting is for the tutors tonight at 6, that we make a roundup to give you some details, and with the students tomorrow in this room 6 o'clock, the first double lecture with Carlos Arroyo and Jean-Mas. So please be here. Thank you again. Bye. Have a nice work.
When we are asleep.